So yes, my name Dr. Michelle Dotsch. I'm running for position 4 for City Council. For those that may not know, I'm born and raised here in Edmonds. I just left mostly for college and then dental school. I went to University of Washington, go Dotsch. I wanted to always come back here. I love Edmonds. Grew up here. I don't know how many of you know. It's kind of the boonies back then, so now it's obviously discovered and a hot place to live, and enjoy actually. And so I ended up practicing with my father in his dental practice in Shoreline, and then I took that over. And my husband and I met in dental school, and we decided to work together for almost 25 years there. And then we've lived here now 23 years ourselves. So kind of in the similar neighborhood up in Maplewood where I grew up. A great area. Retired about 5 years ago, give or take. I was taking care of both my parents. I'm very fortunate to have them live long lives. I lost my dad last year at age 90. But also helping that whole process. It's being a dentist was very helpful to help them through the whole medical part. But also, with Edmonds is where do you go when you sell your house? What are the options? What are the options as you age? So I have lived that, and I do feel like that's a big part of our community as well. Is as people age through, they want to stay in their community. So what are ways we can help with that? And my top 3 priorities are safe, clean neighborhoods. My office was actually 1 block from Highway 99, so I lived through. That challenge of being, it's opportunities and challenges, right? It's and Shoreline was getting a little more in those days. Now it's moved even further north now into Edmonds. So I do understand those challenges.
Finish your thought.
Okay, and then the other priorities are definitely budgeting priorities, being really mindful of our spending and the hard-earned tax dollars that we are responsible for, as well as responsible growth and development policies that also will complement Edmonds, as well as protecting our natural environment as that all is planned together. So any questions? I guess I want to hear from what you guys have to say. Yes.
Michelle, as a professional in Edmonds, I've noticed some things that I believe Neil mentioned. There's not a complete trust in government. So as a local, when you see something that needs taken care of and you present it, it could be so far down the list that you never hear about it again. And then you think, well, maybe this is just a minute obstacle thing that nobody really cares that much about. Do you think we can restore at a local level more trust in government?
I'd like to think so. That's one of the reasons I want to be involved. Having participated as a citizen in a lot of these processes, I really feel the more we can engage citizens up front, the more we can encourage them to bring any concerns or solutions that we can know about. We are representative of our entire community, which I do think is still great for Edmonds. I think it's a small enough town that really want to know all the areas and all the concerns that are there. And I really feel being transparent. I think bringing people in sooner. I think this year they've done a really great job. Now in June, we're going to have an opportunity for the public to come in and weigh in on the budget. I think that's a great opportunity now for people to feel like, hey, these are my concerns, and the administration can hear that as well, because they will bring in their part. So I think being respectful of each other, I think being respectful of community members that come in. One of the things I tell people, kind of the best part of the council meetings when I go is I love the public comments. I think I always learn so much, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that, or wow, there's somebody's coming in and telling me something, and it's great for people to hear about that. Not everybody can. I think having the Zoom option is great now as well if people can't make it down there, so I think it brings more community in there. And then being respectful, I think, when you're communicating. And always, yeah.
Are there strategies that would promote that on the city council that you can cover that you might try to implement?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of lead by example. Like I think all of
Yeah.
us, I think that's a big part. I think that's been. I think we have some great, council members right now. I think that's been brought forward that way. I think really being mindful of the public's input, and the process. And I think one of the things with going through some of these processes, it's kind of like, things will come through different boards and commissions, and then it gets to the council, and maybe there's been a lot of deep thinking and deep information that's been brought there, but then when it gets to council, sometimes that's kind of left out. And I really would prefer to have all that information kind of coming through. Obviously, that people feel like what they've participated in is now coming towards council, because I think that was one area that was lacking. And I think there's been a few things that are taking place now to bring in the chair of the planning board to that meeting where that final, information is coming forward. That's a great opportunity there.
I have a question about
Yes.
the newly passed Housing Bill 1110. Now there is a top-down approach. You basically take away the local controls and open up the single family for multi-residential developments. So, what's your strategy to keep Edmonds with this kind of top-down structure?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think one of the things with that bill, and if you followed it, I followed it intently from the beginning to the end, is it changed a lot from the beginning. It was a pretty drastic bill at the beginning. There was a lot of input. Edmonds participated phenomenally. People ask us, like, what's going on in Edmonds? I'm like, well, people are engaged and people care. So there are actually in the bill, there are some opportunities because of lack of infrastructure or safety concerns that Edmonds will have some opportunities to still maintain local control. The higher density was eventually filtered through to just really be by high capacity transit, which was also a really good solution. At that time, they were trying to get them way out by parks and schools where we just don't have transit. So that really didn't make much sense. So those things have thankfully fallen away. But it is something that we have to go through and really look at, where are the areas we can take advantage of what they've given us, that we can still keep it local, as well as creating, the housing that they want us to. So it's definitely a balancing act.
Michelle,
Yes.
It's been really important for the council to have a collaborative dialogue on some of the most important topics that our city faces. And could you tell me times when you have experienced the need to listen really well to someone who has a different opinion than you? How did you deal with it? How did you handle the situation? How did you come to a resolution that was a benefit for both sides, or maybe for 3 sides, or maybe for 4 sides?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think one of the things that I see sometimes is people are coming from it at different sides, sometimes with totally different information, and sometimes that information isn't really shared or really brought forward in a way that says, okay, hey, this is how I see it from my background or my neighborhood or whatever it is, and this is it from a completely different aspect, and this is what I'm hearing, right? And sometimes I think a lot of that maybe discord is coming from not having maybe a full grasp of all the information, which I think is really helpful to bring forward. Using it's kind of like with dentistry. It's like you're diagnosing. If you're not diagnosing from a position of having all the information, it's like, well, then you really aren't going to get any good results down the road. So I think really trying to bring people in with different opinions within that same framework. I think that's really good. And then just being I think just listening.
And what's your part been in those kind of conversations? What have you done?
I think one of the things is making it okay for people to come in and say something. I think that's actually one of the biggest things is I think people get disillusioned or feel like, oh, I can't really say anything. What am I going to say? What nobody's going to listen to me, and that kind of thing. And I think giving that opportunity and making it a priority, saying, no, we do want to hear from you. We do want you to participate and bring your thoughts in. And sometimes you're not really as far off as you think once you start that open communication. So I hope that answers that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was the idea that multifamily would be on high transit. Okay, so that ended up in the bill, because I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it was all these different changes. Yeah, it was a half mile, then ended up a quarter mile. They had like definitions of bus stops, so it was a little more broad, and now they really restricted it.
Mostly in that.
So it's pretty much the train station and then 99.